The shuttle door hissed open with a mechanical exhale, releasing a gust of recycled air into the corridor of Verelian Academy. Cale Merrick stepped through the threshold, his boots clicking against the polished obsidian floor. The hallway stretched wide and tall like the ribcage of some great, slumbering beast. Holograms shimmered in the air, warnings, statistics, kill ratios, all flickering just beyond eye level. He paused, adjusted the strap of his bag, and smiled. At first glance, there was nothing remarkable about him. Slight of build, with tousled brown hair and eyes a shade too calm for someone in his position. He looked like someone who might get lost in a crowd of ordinary people, let alone in a place where ordinary meant deadly. Yet he walked as though he belonged, as though this alien fortress carved into the orbit of a blue dwarf star wasn't known across 12 systems for producing the galaxy's most lethal female operatives. A voice echoed from the intercom, sharp, amused, and disinterested. Omega 13. Report to Combat Wing Sigma. The human has arrived. The door to the classroom hissed open. Cale was met by a dozen pairs of eyes. None friendly, none human. The girls of Omega 13 stared at him as one might study a cracked artifact, curious, but potentially dangerous. Some leaned back, arms crossed, silently calculating. One was cleaning under her fingernails with a blade. Another sat floating midair, her hair braided with strands of plasma. And in the far corner, half obscured by shadows, a girl with silver pupils and no visible expression blinked once, then didn't move again. Cale's smile didn't falter. A girl with a mechanical arm stood first. "Is this a joke?" she asked, her voice metallic, fused with synth tones. "They're sending us a boy? He's bait." Another said, long-fingered and laced with insect chitin. "A stress test." "I say we stress him." Someone flicked a knife. It whistled through the air. Cale didn't move. The blade stopped an inch from his throat, vibrating in place. He looked at it, then at the thrower, and gave her a small, respectful nod. "Nice control." The girl frowned, caught off guard. From the far end of the room, the instructor entered. Madame Kine's uniform was starched, ceremonial, and likely hiding weapons more dangerous than any in the room. Her gaze swept the room, silencing it with a glance. "Sit," she said, and the girls obeyed. Cale found a seat, intentionally not at the center, not at the edge. Just near enough to be noticed, far enough to observe. The instructor tapped a console, and a hologram of the academy spun above her shoulder. "This class," Kine began, "is the most violent, unstable, and talented group we've ever had the misfortune of assembling. Each of you is a potential extinction event. She gestured to Cale without looking, "is here because the Galactic Concord ordered it." "No, I don't like it either." A ripple of hostility moved through the room. "You are not required to protect him," Kine continued. "But kill him, and you'll answer to me." That made them pause. She tapped again, and a countdown appeared. "Combat trials begin. 36 hours. Dismissed." The girls filed out with controlled aggression, like panthers pretending to be house cats. Cale stood last. Kine looked at him directly for the first time. Her eyes were gray, not from age, but from exposure to something he couldn't name. "You're either here to die," she said, "or to teach them something I couldn't. Either way, don't waste my time." He offered a shallow bow. "Wouldn't dream of it." In the hallway, footsteps followed him. Not fast, measured, curious. Cale didn't look back. "You didn't dodge the knife," a voice said behind him. Smooth, unaccented, but with an edge like glass. "I didn't need to," he replied. She appeared beside him, without warning. Lyra Thanek, he'd seen her file. Reptilian but humanoid. Mirrored skin that reflected his own surprised expression. "You smiled when you walked in," she said. "Why?" "Because you all expected me to be afraid." She tilted her head. "You should be." He nodded. "Maybe. But if I was, I'd be just another target." They walked in silence for a few steps. "You're not what I expected," she said. "I get that a lot." They parted ways at the dorm junction. Cale entered his quarters, small and sterile, the walls humming with quiet energy. He dropped his bag, sat on the edge of the bunk, and let the smile fade. His fingers trembled slightly, just for a second. Then he reached into the lining of his coat and pulled out a worn photo. It showed a younger him with 2 scientists. The image shimmered with encrypted light, proof it wasn't allowed here. He touched it gently. Still playing the part, Dad. The wall console lit up with a blinking message. Unknown source. You shouldn't be here, Kale. They're not the real danger. He stared at the words, then deleted them. Outside, Omega-13's training fields activated. Drones screamed. Gravity faltered. And somewhere, a girl screamed in joy or fury. It was hard to tell. Kale leaned back, eyes half closed, listening. He smiled again. The training dome shifted around them like a living thing, walls morphing from flat stone to metallic jungle. 30 seconds ago, it had resembled an Earth-style gymnasium. Now it was a twisted labyrinth of vertical terrain, flickering grav plates and jagged perches that defied conventional physics. Omega-13 stood ready. All but one of them, that is. Kale adjusted his footing as the floor dipped beneath him, forcing him to crouch to maintain balance. Above, the simulation timer blared. Live combat trial, round 1, survive. No instruction. No teams. No rules. The girls exploded into motion. Shadows vanished as cloaking devices activated. Wings unfurled. Energy blades crackled to life. Kale dove aside as a pulse blast ruptured the air behind him, shattering a column. He didn't scream, didn't panic. He moved like he knew the rhythm before it played. His body twisted through gravity shifts, sliding down an inclined wall before catching a rail mid-fall. An insectal shriek passed by overhead. One of the twins, Marn or Mirren, exoskeletal legs clacking across walls like a death spider on speed. Kale didn't bother trying to fight back. He wasn't strong enough. Not yet. He ran, not from fear, but to assess. A beam lanced past his head. He ducked, rolled, turned. And there, he saw her. Lyra Feynek. Perched on a pillar with impossible balance, her mirrored skin bending the light around her like living camouflage. She watched him, not with contempt, but calculation. He offered a nod, subtle and brief. She didn't return it, but she didn't fire either. He knew what that meant. Someone else did. Zyra came for him like a comet, hair streaming behind her in waves of indigo, her eyes burning too bright. Part siren, part something else he didn't have time to analyze. She moved faster than any simulation he'd trained against. He dodged left. She anticipated. She struck. The air cracked. His shoulder screamed as he slammed into a wall. Blood in his mouth. He tasted iron. The floor pitched again and dropped him 6 feet. He barely managed to roll, landing behind an old surveillance node. Her voice followed. You think a smile will save you now? He coughed. Not counting on it. She didn't hesitate. Another sonic lash tore through the air. It struck the node, warping its frame into molten slag. Kale scrambled, this time toward the central tower. Every training dome had a core system, a way to manipulate the environment if you were clever enough. He was gambling she hadn't noticed. She pursued. He climbed. The structure wasn't meant to be scaled. He gritted his teeth and forced each movement. Sweat blurred his vision. Below, Zyra floated upward effortlessly, gravitationally dissonant. She didn't need to climb. She just hunted. Why don't you fight back? She asked, voice lilting and dangerous. Because I'm not your enemy. That made her pause only slightly. He reached the panel at the top, cloaked but present. He keyed in an override code. One he shouldn't know. The dome stuttered. Gravity normalized for 3 seconds, enough to throw everyone off balance. Enough to level the playing field. Zyra fell. Kale caught her. She thrashed, hissed, but he didn't let go until they hit ground together, rolling in a tangled mess of limbs and breath and disbelief. When she finally shoved him off, she stared, not enraged, but stunned. You saved me? He nodded, slow, breathing hard. Why not? You're supposed to be weak. I'm not supposed to be anything. She stood, brushing dirt from her arms. Others were gathering now, drawn by the disruption. Lyra appeared again, silent but close. The cybernetic girl from earlier loomed behind her, and somewhere above, one of the twins clicked her claws in agitation. No one spoke. Then the intercom chimed. Madame Kine's voice, terse. Cease simulation. Report for debrief. The dome froze. Light faded. Adrenaline bled away like a receding tide. Cale exhaled. Later, in the locker hall that smelled of ozone and metal polish, Lyra approached him without ceremony. You access the tower's control panel. He shrugged. Lucky guess. Don't insult me.
He sighed. Fine.
I trained on a ghost sim of this academy back on Earth. Someone wanted me prepared. I don't know who. They blanked everything above level 3 clearance. But I remember enough. You were ready for this.
No.
Just adaptable. Lyra watched him. Her pupils adjusted unnaturally, processing more than light. You're not strong, she said. You're dangerous in another way. He didn't deny it. Behind them, Zyra stood against the wall, arms crossed. Her gaze wasn't hostile now, just wary, confused. You're messing with something, she said. Us. Ourselves. You made me hesitate. Cale looked at her. Is that a bad thing? She didn't answer. The intercom beeped again. Subject Zyra, Lyra, and Cale. Report to Deep Sim 3. Immediate. They exchanged glances. Cale should have felt dread. Instead, for reasons even he couldn't fully explain, he smiled again. Deep Sim 3 didn't feel like a simulation. The walls were too cold, the air too still. There were no glowing lines on the floor, no humming projectors or visible tech. It felt ancient, like stepping into a forgotten tomb. Cale stood at the edge of the chamber with Lyra to his left and Zyra watching him from behind, her expression unreadable. Madame Kine entered alone. No drones, no guards. That was telling. She didn't bother with pretense this time. You're not the first human they've tried to send here, she said without ceremony. But you're the only one who lasted longer than an hour. Cale kept his eyes on hers. I've had practice. She raised a brow. You're a sleeper, aren't you? Project Lazarus. Quiet little myth Earth keeps denying. Empathic manipulator. No visible weaponry, just presence. Smile, breathe, disrupt the psyche. That it? He said nothing. That was answer enough. Zyra stiffened. He's been using powers on us? No, Cale said. Not the way you think. Madame Kine stepped closer. You have no idea what you're tampering with, Cale. Omega 13 was built to survive extinction-level combat. You were sent here to soften us. I wasn't sent, Cale replied. I escaped. They let me think I was a volunteer. But everything was staged. Earth never wanted peace. They wanted control. I was a test case, but I left before they flipped the final switch. You're lying, Zyra said sharply, her voice echoing in the cold room. You manipulated me. You made me hesitate in battle. No, Cale said. I reminded you you could. Silence hung like a blade above them. Lyra broke it, her voice lower than usual. I watched his readings. His field affects emotion, yes, but only what's already there. He doesn't create peace. He amplifies the potential for it. Zyra's eyes shimmered. So you're a walking mirror. You reflect us back at ourselves. Cale didn't smile this time. And most of you aren't ready for that. A panel slid open in the far wall. Kine turned toward it, but didn't move. Your presence has destabilized this class, Cale. But I won't remove you. I'm curious how far the chaos will go before it turns to something else. She left without waiting for a response. The room dimmed, returning them to ordinary light. Lyra moved first, approaching the exit. You're not what I expected, she said without looking back. But you're exactly what this place deserves. Zyra lingered. You don't trust me, Cale said. I don't trust myself around you, she corrected. That's worse. He met her gaze. Then maybe it's working. She turned and left. Hours later, Cale sat alone in the observation dome, a thin barrier of glass separating him from the endless void. He watched stars drift, clusters burn quietly across the vacuum. It was the only place in the academy that didn't feel like a weapon. The door hissed behind him. He didn't need to look. You always move in silence, Lyra. Trying to unsettle me. No, she said, sitting beside him. Just curious what silence does to someone like you.
He considered that.
Reminds me I'm still me. She tilted her head. You aren't afraid of what they'll do when they find out more? They already know enough. And they haven't killed me yet. You're not the real threat, Lyra said. It's what you're waking up in us. He looked over. And what's that? A memory, she said, of who we were before they turned us into weapons. He fell quiet. Her next words came like a whisper. They're watching through the AI net. The administration. They're waiting for one of us to break. I know, he said. Do you plan to? Kale leaned forward, touching the glass.
No.
But I plan to make them think I might. As Lyra rose to leave, she paused. Zyra asked about you. That means something. I'm not sure if that's good or bad. It's real, Lyra said. That's enough. She left. Kale remained, staring into the void, his reflection faint on the glass. For the first time, it didn't look like a stranger. Behind him, deep beneath the Academy's foundations, hidden protocols activated. A forgotten AI node stirred. Its last directive was simple. If empathy spreads, initiate lockdown.
The countdown began.